So hey everyone, we are back from the 57-year mission, also known as STLV. Returned to the Rio after a 1-year absence at Bally's, and it was definitely very nice to be back at the main hotel. Um, we had a additional guest this year. I was able to invite one of our furry Trek friends to join us, Atsuki Kodama, who has been our con partner for many different conventions. And it was an opportunity to introduce him to the Star Trek convention and how things work at cons like that, because it's a very different animal than furry conventions. And if you've never been to a Star Trek con, it's a different rhythm, it's a different world, and it's something that I really kind of wanted to introduce a couple of my friends to. One was unable to join us, but Atsuki was able to come with us, and for the most part, I'd say that it went really well. Um, I told him beforehand that I wasn't necessarily going to be able to escort him around the con as much as I would have liked, because as we usually end up having quite a few obligations to attend to. But I mean, for the most part, we had a good time. We all got along very well, as we usually do, and it was nice to have a room very similar to the one that we originally stayed in the very first time we attended this convention. And the hotel was pretty much the same as far as I could tell. I mean, it did seem that this year things were a little bit busier than they had been in previous years, and perhaps it's because I think COVID kind of kept some people away from the convention in the last couple of years, maybe other things, but it was very busy this year, a lot more so, because I recall that maybe like last year or 2 years ago, it seemed like it was relatively quiet on Thursday and Friday. It didn't really pick up until Saturday. And of course, also this convention is a convention where sometimes people just go for the day, and whereas opposed to furry cons where people are usually here for the duration. I'm always here for the whole thing. So I mean, this year it was just more of like, once the con actually started, it was just a consistent level of busyness, and that wasn't a good or bad thing. It was just kind of interesting to note. But I will say this much, because we didn't have very many cancellations, which was surprising, I think, to a lot of people. Normally there are more. But I think part of that might have to do with the SAG-AFTRA and writers' strike that's currently going on. Because actors can cancel their guest appearances for any number of reasons. Obviously, their career takes priority, and any personal things that may come up. And in total, I think there were maybe 10 guest cancellations, which, considering that there were a total of 160 guests, um, that really is very good. And I think normally there's maybe twice that, perhaps, but unfortunately, a couple of the cancellations did affect us. We were hoping to see Ethan Phillips and Robert Duncan McNeil to complete our photo set with the Voyager cast, so unfortunately we'll have to try again next year to hopefully get the two of them. But other than that, most of the cancellations were not an issue. I would say that it was a very good convention. I'll talk about that more as I go. We decided for our restaurant, because we always go to a restaurant on Thursday night as a sort of kickoff to the convention. We went back to Giada's at the Cromwell, which I got this really pretty dessert, which you can see right here, and it was just so good. Some sort of like lemon souffle. They had many different options, and I mean, anytime I go to one of these fancy restaurants, because we always try to go to at least one special restaurant during the run of the convention, it's one of the few cases where it's just like, I want to make sure that I have room for both the meal and the dessert. I had like a lobster ravioli, which was delicious, and this dessert, because I just kind of wanted to have a tasty dessert. We had invited Atsuki, although he chose not to come with us, which is, I mean, it's fine. But it was kind of our special convention tradition to sort of kick things off, because we have a couple of set meals. The first, of course, is a nice restaurant of our mutual choosing. Strag and I will usually pick a restaurant months in advance that we want to go to, or that we've been to before. Giada we went to, I think, 2 years ago, and had a very good meal. And we also decided to go back this year because nothing popped up that really wowed me. At some point I would like to go back to Hell's Kitchen, but whenever that happens, we'll see. I really enjoyed the the restaurant. It was all good, very delicious as usual, and it's always a nice way to start the convention. Registration as expected was very quick, and during the preview night, Strag will tell you I usually have a couple of things that I have to accomplish. It's like I go and pick up my 8x10s that I need to get autographed that night, and I'll usually exchange any tickets that I need exchanging. As mentioned, this time we didn't have too many, but I traded in the ones I had for a couple of different photo ops that interested me. Most of them were the scheduled ones that I had on my list, but I know that Sonequa was one of them that I wanted to do. That was kind of not on the list, and we also had the Ladies of TNG and the Disco Cast, which kind of became an option. And I'll say that my experience this year has kind of educated and informed me on what I want to do in terms of next year's approach. Now that we've gotten a good number of the actors that we want, there's still a fair amount that we're missing that I hope show up in future years. There are a few that have never made it to the convention that I know of, like Santiago Cabrera and Allison Pill, which I hope show up. And there are some that have been there in the past, but they just haven't been in previous years. Some, of course, are there like clockwork. There are a few that I see every year, that I have seen every year since I've gone. And there are a few that are there some years, but not others. I know that we're still looking for, as mentioned, Ethan Phillips, Robert Duncan McNeil. We're still looking for Alexander Siddig. I would like to redo Colm Meaney. Let's see. I know that there are a few from Discovery that I still want to capture that I did not have the opportunity in previous years. David Ayala and Blue Del Barrio I'd like to redo. But I did manage to accomplish several things this year that I did want. We had Mary Wiseman that I was able to update our photo, because it was the first one we had taken was both pre-transition. No, it wasn't pre-transition. It was during COVID, so we had masks and barriers, and I wanted a better photo, and we were able to accomplish that. I wanted a new photo with Linda Park, which I was able to get. It was just me. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, Strag wasn't feeling well on the second day of the convention, on the Friday, and it resulted in him missing a couple of the photo ops that I had scheduled for us. I don't think he was ill at the time, although he did seem to come down with COVID after we came back. Fortunately, I seem to have avoided it. But Friday he was just very tired, and wasn't feeling great. So, he seemed to perk up after he pretty much rested on Friday. But we managed to accomplish about 20 some odd, 23 photo ops, and I had over a dozen autographs. Pretty much every day of the convention I would go down in the morning, and I wouldn't come back until it was the end of the convention day at about 5 o'clock. But through opportunity, through scheduling, through other things, I was able to get all of it done. And this is kind of a testament to the fact that if it's planned well, and of course to the scheduling of the convention, that things work out pretty well if you make sure you stay organized. And I would also say that when they announced they were doing 2 photo areas, that I was initially concerned because I was wondering about conflicts, but it seemed like it worked out pretty well. It looked like they broke up the room that they normally do the photos in into 3 areas. The pickup area was in the middle, and they had 2 photo areas on either side. They had the larger photo area, which was designed to accommodate more people, and a slightly smaller area for, I think, those actors that had less demand, and or the group photos, of which they do less slots in the first place. So it really worked out very well. We had really no conflicts. A couple of my favorites, I was able to do a solo with Nana Visitor, John Frakes, Doug Jones, and we were able to get a lot of pictures that we needed. We got Anson Mount, Christina Chong, Ethan Peck, Ed Spaliers from Picard, who I was excited to meet, and we did. Celia Rose Gooding, who was just I was one of the ones that he missed. I was able to reschedule LeVar and Anson for the Saturday, so we were able to get those together. Because my goal is to try and get a picture of both of us with every principal actor if I can. But there's a few that we'll try and redo if the opportunity presents itself. But I mean, it's always good to have backup plans when it comes to Star Trek Las Vegas, because every year the guest list changes, and you never know. You just have to kind of get the opportunities that you can and just kind of make the most of it. And for the most part, it worked out really well. We got LeVar Burton and Michael Dorn, both of which were people we had not had the opportunity to in previous years. The first year we didn't take the opportunity, and also it would have been one I would have preferred to redo anyway, just because that first year was all pre-transition photos. And in the second and third year we attended, they were not present. So, I mean, all things considered, I think it worked out better because the timing was nice. It was after Picard Season 3 came out, and also we were able to do photos this year. I don't think anybody that I know of used barriers or masks this year, which pleased me in terms of the photos especially. Masks were optional. The convention has gone to a voluntary policy at this point. Nevertheless, just for general caution and just to safeguard myself as much as possible, I was using a lot of Purell the days coming up to the convention. But for the most part, it was really good. We had I met a lot of actors that some of which I had seen before. It was kind of nice that a couple of them remembered me. It's like Sirach Lofton said I looked familiar, and I told them that I'd seen, we'd met in previous conventions. I had tried to get his autograph again last year because I'm trying to get like a second autograph for most of the Trek actors, just to have one on display and one to archive. And it also was one of those cases that last year our timing just never lined up. Every time I came by, he wasn't at his table. But this time I was lucky. I got to see everybody that I came to see. I got autographs. I was able to get another Marina, to get another Denise Crosby and a Nicole DeBoer. Strictly speaking, I didn't need them, but the second autograph I got last year for both of their characters was for alternate universe versions of them. One was Sela, and one was Mir Ezri. And I mean, I kind of wanted a second Prime version of both of them. And it was a really good convention. I mean, I was busy. I was always on the way to somewhere. I had a couple of little breaks here and there, but I managed to, for the most part, stick within my budget. And I think I've calculated that it's a good amount of money for me to take, a good way for me to do things. So, as I mentioned earlier, I think that it will inform my plan for next year as far as how to break down the different photo slots. And it's a comfortable amount that we can do them, that they're not too busy, and I think it will work out really well. One other thing of note, I would mention that I was able to arrange a photo with Atsuki and Shrag with Andy Robinson, because they had mentioned to me that it was somebody he would be interested in, and fortunately we was able to make that happen on relatively short notice. So, I mean, for the most part, I was able to use all of the credit that I had applied, that I'd gotten from the canceled tickets, and it worked out very well. One of the photos that was not planned, the Discovery cast, has turned out to be pretty much my favorite photo from the entire convention. I think that a lot of the solo photos and a lot of the photos that didn't get frames this year, I'm going to keep in a binder, just as a sort of pseudo photo album, and that's probably what's going to happen to a lot of the future photos. Some of them may end up replacing the ones that are on display just for the sake of, having the nicest ones on the walls to look at all the time. But for the most part, I'd say that the con went very well. We did get a couple of chances to run into Moody and her partner. She had a really good Riker cosplay, which I'll show you here. And we got a chance to have dinner with them once or twice. The food was very good. I mean, I didn't take a whole lot of pictures this year, but I tend to take a lot less pictures at a Star Trek convention than I do at a furry con, for a few reasons. But I also got a couple of pictures of some really interesting cosplays. Not as many as last year, I think, but there was this one that was really cute. And let's see, what else was there? Everything pretty much worked out almost perfect. I mean, ideally it would have been nice if Shrag had not got COVID on our return, and if he had been at full power on Friday. But I mean, all things considered, I can't really say that there's anything that didn't work out reasonably well. I mean, the con went well. I think everything worked out pretty smoothly, and it was a really good convention. So, I mean, fingers crossed that we get to go. That we go next year. I mean, of course, plans are there that I would like to go back, and I think that's really it. I'm sure there's other things I could talk about, but as far as the con report, I would say that's about it. And we had a good time. It was a great opportunity, and I really was pleased with how it all turned out. It was very nice, to go back, and it was really just one of those things that I kind of think I needed, and I would like to see. I'd like to go back again as the opportunity permits. Well, that's it for now, and I will catch you all later.
If you like werewolves, check out my book Blue Moon, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. Catch you later.